Thank you very much to Mohammed for this question. He asked me all about my linguistic journey, how I was able to learn several foreign languages. And today I don't really want to dwell on French and Italian, which are long-lasting passions of mine. That was quite a conventional route, really. I learned French at school and then Italian and French at university, and spent a lot of time living in both countries. In particular Toulouse in France and Avignon and Brindisi and Siena in Italy, and most recently in Milan. I actually want to talk to you about the most recent language I learned, which was Portuguese. That was the first language that I embarked upon as a qualified interpreter, because there comes a time when all good interpreters worth their salt have to look into adding to their language combination. My language combination for the European Union was French and Italian into English, and in order to be a bit more competitive on the market, ultimately you need to be able to offer more services like any freelance industry. So how do you go about choosing which language to add? I must stress that this is particularly true on the institutional market, where interpreters typically work from a foreign language into their mother tongue in what's called a pure booth. In other individual private markets, often a command of the local language coupled with a very strong English B language, or what's known as a retour language, i.e. the ability to work from a language into English, is sufficient. But given that I was working for the institutional market, albeit relatively infrequently, having a professional domicile in Milan and not in Brussels, and only offering two C languages, French and Italian, which are both relatively common, there came a time when I had to try and bolster my language combination. I took this decision upon myself in late 2014. So by that stage I had been qualified for around 18 months as an EU accredited conference interpreter. I was living in Milan. I was working as an interpreter on the one hand and also as a football commentator covering the Italian top flight Serie A on the other. So how do you go about choosing a language? Which language do you decide to add? Well, the EU has a whole range. There's a whopping 24 to choose from. So it's not necessarily an easy decision. And some languages are more exotic than others. Some languages are more in demand and more sought after than others. Perhaps it might be Danish one day and Maltese the next. But it's very difficult to know that whether what is in demand today will still be in demand tomorrow. Often it will take several years to successfully add a language, and in this particular case with the EU, it involves taking another accreditation exam to successfully prove that you have what it takes to interpret from that language into English. So in this case, two speeches to be done consecutively and two to be done simultaneously. It might even be one of each. I need to check on that process in particular. So late 2014, I thought, right, I'm going to leave Milan, I'm going to learn a new language, and I plumped for Portuguese. Why? Because I had an existing passion for the country, Portugal, and for its culture, having spent a lot of time as during my youth on family holidays to the Algarve in the south of the country, and also because Portuguese, the language, intrigued me as an intellectual exercise. I quite like the rather unusual sounds of the language, and clearly it's another Romance language like French and Italian, and I realised that that would probably speed up the whole process. The only loose end which needed tying up was the one pertaining to my fledgling broadcasting career. I was commentating, as I said, but I didn't necessarily want to put that side of my career on hold whilst I went down the full immersion route. I had had success living in France and living in Italy in terms of improving my language skills. I wanted to do likewise with Portuguese, so I took it upon myself to move to Portugal. But before I did that, I wanted to ascertain whether there would be any broadcasting opportunities. I wanted to look into whether there were any English commentary opportunities in Portugal. Thankfully there were, and that all led to a move to Lisbon in March of 2015. All of that will be for another video for another day as I talk you through what I did specifically to learn Portuguese, but that's just to give you the broad brushstrokes, to give you a bit of background as to why I decided to learn Portuguese in the first place. Thank you.